Very welcome, very warm welcome to this dungeon session on creativity. My name is Uku. My task will be to keep eyes on the time. The schedule is going to be strict in the sense that we need to account for people who might want to sneak in and sneak out for other sessions. This is allowed. And there is some 10 minutes spare time for discussion at the very end. So, for the first speaker, we have a presentation of slides. So, I'm not going to go. There you go.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start with Pathways to the Future, Education for Sustainable Development. And I think the title is very striking, that we talk about pathways to the future, because what is this future? And what if we can determine this future? What do you think it will look like? What if you can think about the future? How do you want it to look like? Who has an idea? A happy future. Sounds
green.
Good. Which one?
Green.
A green future?
More just.
A more just? Equal, yeah. Yeah, a more equal future. Interesting. So there are a few ideas of how the future might look like. I think some people have ideas. Some people need to think about this hard. What do I want the future to look like? Because this is actually a tough question. And we want kids we educate them for the future. But what is this future? So when we have some ideas like a green, a loving, happy future, an equal future. If we know this, if we all agree on this, how are we going to create this future then? That's also an interesting question. So if you think about the future, there's one thing, and then if you know what you want, how do you get there? And that's another thing. And that's what I'm going to talk about. We work on the program which is called Teach the Future. And my name is Erica Bol, and I work together with a couple of for instance, Peter Bishop, who's a professor at Houston University, studied the future for more than 30 years, and we work with an international group of people to explore this future, not only to think about what the future might be, but to teach this future, and to teach this future to kids. Because children go to school to be prepared for the future. And what we teach them about yesterday, history, what it was like, which is important. We teach them about today, what's happening right now, which is also important. But we forget to teach them about tomorrow, about the future, which we think is also important. It's important to see that there was a yesterday, that there is a today, but that there is also a tomorrow. And to think about how do we want this future, this tomorrow, to look like. So that's why we set up the program, Teach the Future, where we teach children about the future. And it's not by telling them what this future is going to look like, because we don't know. Nobody knows. We don't know what the future is going to look like. But we know some things. We know that the world changes. Today's not going to be the same as tomorrow. Yesterday was different as today. So the world changes. And that this change can be influenced, that we can help this change to create this tomorrow, to create this future. So why is this important? I'd like to go into this to explain about this change, for instance. We think, oh yeah, change, this is a nice word. But what does it actually mean? If we think about change, if we think about the past, we rode horses, we went there everywhere, and then we started to ask ourselves, okay, so we use those horses, but we want faster horses. We want something more, we want to go faster. And then instead of thinking, how can we improve this faster horse, how can we get there? They started thinking, oh, but we can do it differently. We can think of other ideas, and they invented a car instead of a faster horse. And that made a huge change to the world. So this one invention changed the world. And then this is what we're driving. We're driving cars right now. But what is the future going to look like? Are we going to work on faster cars, solar cars, electric cars? Or is there another way that in the future we're going to transport ourselves, for instance, by using holograms? Are we going to hologram to each other? Or is there going to be, for instance, a wind pressure tunnel that we just bump in this tunnel and we fly because of the pressure of the wind? Or, you know, or, we don't know. There are inventions, there are people being creative, thinking about what is it, where do we want to go? And where do we want to go and how can we do this? We can do this in the same way that we have been doing it, but just a little different. Or we can think of how we want this and what might be better. And then there's a whole discussion about what is better, of course. But what can be better and how can we create this? And we can be part of this creation. And that's interesting, and that's also something that we don't always realize, that there is change and that we can be part of this change. So the world always changes, and it looks different than today. And why is this maybe even more important now than it used to be? Because the world is changing more rapidly, because of the globalization, because of the digital revolution. We get connected, we meet each other, we get inspired, we know what's going on. And because of that, because of this rapidly forming change, there's a lot we can work with that. And because of this change, it's also more necessary to understand this change and to being able to deal with this change. Because change is actually quite scary for a lot of us. And understanding the concept of change, it's not easy to adjust to it. And it's a lot of anger. It's scary to work with change. Because we don't know what it's gonna look like. And what are we gonna have, and what's gonna happen. And you know, I rather do what I've been doing because I know it works. And if we have this attitude, that can be an attitude, but then if we need something to change, for instance, how the environment is changing, then we need to take action. And we need to be willing to not be afraid of change and to change with. So, for instance, I don't need a mobile phone. I have a phone at home. This is $19.99. That's what people said. I don't need a mobile phone. And now, where are we, 2015, 15 years later, everybody wants this mobile phone. But this took more than 10 years for people to realize that this could be an interesting element that we could use. And another one, why should I throw away my plastic waste in a separate container? I've never done this before. This is how we are trained, because we don't really realize that our influences, our actions, can influence change and can influence the future. So we don't do it because we don't really know, we're afraid, and we don't really know what it leads us to. So if we understand this change, and that we embrace it because it's fun, actually, that's what life is about change. We change. And that we embrace it. It's much more fun and it's easier to deal with it and to make the change. To make the change we actually need. So if you understand that the future will change, it's easier to deal with it. And that's why with Teach the Future, we teach children to stay, actually, resilient, flexible, and anticipative. Because children have these capabilities. They are resilient, they are flexible. When you learn how to ride a bike, I'm Dutch, so I use the bike as an example. When you learn to ride the bike, you know, you're gonna fall. But when you're little, you get up, you try again. And you go until you know how it works. When we grow older, we don't. We don't wanna, you know, I don't know how it works, or I'll fall, it hurts me, you know that it hurts. And you start losing this resilience and flexibility that you have as a child. So instead of taking this away from the children, we help them to stay how they are and to use these capabilities in the rest of their lives. Instead of growing up old and don't daring anymore, using the resilience and flexibility and anticipative thinking and way of doing to make your life easier. And this is, we think, good for yourself because it's easier to adapt to life. There's less anger, less stress, less disappointment. And then you find there are more opportunities for you. And there are more opportunities to deal with life and to make something out of life. And if it's good for you and you're happy, in the end, and this is a broad statement, but in the end it helps society in all. Because if you can make the change, you and us, we all together can make the change that we need. So understanding change is the one thing. And then if we take it a step further, and this is not easy, and this is difficult for us, and this is not for everybody, but if we can take it a step further, then we know that we can influence this change. So we deal with change as one thing, and if you know that you can influence that, all your actions are going to be part of the change, even if they're little, all the little things help, then we can determine the future we want. So coming back to the question I asked earlier, what do we want the future to look like? And this is not just a regular question, this is actually something we can create. But then we need to start thinking about it. We need to start thinking about the future we want to live in. And not only our future, but also the future of others. And then we need to start thinking about what it will look like. Discuss this with each other, because if we all have a different perspective, it's going to be hard to get to this future that's going to happen. But if we share opinions and we share thoughts, at least we start to understand each other and we can create and form this vision together where we want to go to. And if we do this, if we start to think about where we want to go, we can also start to plan where to go. Because now it's mostly, we answer on the problems that are there. So to help to disevolve the problems, but instead of answering on the problems, it's nicer to not answer on the problems, to create something that you want. So that's another way of thinking. And and we can determine the way we want. And this is for your personal life, and as well as the world's. And to do this, we need to learn how to think long term. Not only about today, which is important, don't get me wrong. Yesterday is important, today is important. But also, what is tomorrow, and where do we want to go? And this can be taught. There are ways to work with that, to try to understand the concept. And we're not going to tell you what the future is going to look like, because we don't know. But we're going to help you to create and to deal and to think about this. So also, where do you want to go in your personal life? You can think about it. And also, where do we want to go as the world? And then thinking about how do you do that, partly there are more things. So it's also about understanding this system and thinking critically, which can be taught in a simple way. But if we talk about the creative things, and we're in the creative session, if you can imagine, and this is a difficult thing, if you can imagine a future where you want to go to, and if you can imagine something that is not there, not thinking how it was yesterday, going to, we have a car now and we want this faster car. No, we can imagine everything. We can imagine something that is not there yet, because we can help create it. And that's the other thing of how to be creative. One is in being imaginative, and the other one is being inventive. Because if you thought of something you like where you want to go, you have to be inventive to get there. Because there's no easy road. There's never an easy road. But there are different ways to get there. Like the saying, there's not one way to Rome. There are different ways to get somewhere. But at least if you know where you want to go to, you can try to be inventive to create this road or the way you want to go. So to sum up, the fact is that there is change. So we need to deal with it. And instead of dealing with it, it might be nice to embrace it, to make it fun, to use it in life. And then if we are there, then the next thing is we need to think about it. about this change and to think about how we can influence it. Where do you want to go? Because that's what the future is going to look like. And this is not just about talking and saying and discussing, about saying there is a future. This is about really trying to feel how that works and that you can be part of it. And so what we're doing, going back, so the most interesting thing is that we don't want to give kids the answers of today, is what we're trying to do in schools a lot, is we're trying to give them the answer. But the answer from today is not the same answer as tomorrow. So instead of giving them answers, it's important to letting them think about the answers that they think are right and that they work for them. It depends on the situation they're in, depends on the context they're in, depends on how the world looks like at that moment. So to start using sense-making things and strange-making things. To make sense of the world, trying to figure out how it works, and to make it strange, to find out how you want it to work, because it is possible. So we need to give the kids skills to think about the answer of tomorrow. And so why is this important for the sustainable world? Because if you understand that change is inevitable, it's easier to accept upcoming changes that are needed for a sustainable world. So we can deal with change. And then if you understand that your actions have impact on change, then you also understand that it's important of your actions, that your actions do make a change of the future. And as last, if you understand that the future doesn't exist yet, then you also know you can influence the creation of a better, sustainable world. So we can create this world that we want. So when we talk about the sustainable future, we should not only explain sustainability, but also the future. And that's it. We're working on those materials, and we're going to make them public. We're working on it hard. And hopefully by the end of the year, we have materials that everybody who wants to teach about the future can use. And ending by what Nelson Mandela said, action without vision is only passing time. Vision without action is merely daydreaming, but vision with action can change the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Erika, for this engaging presentation. Let's have some questions.
Just one question. Can you give one practical example on how you are implementing this? Otherwise, it looks like kind of daydreaming and collective atmosphere.
Sorry, what kind of
how do you
materials
implement this philosophy in practice?
What we, for instance, did just when we do workshops, when we start, we explain them, we ask them how the future looks like, and they give examples, and then we say, yeah, this is possible, that is possible. So they say, hey, there are more ways the future can look like. And then we tell them the different forms of the future, and we explain them about a linear way of thinking, that from yesterday to today we can improve, but that there are also new inventions that make the changes. And then we tell them that they can invent something themselves, because that might change as well. And then they start to think about what their future might look like, because they open up their minds. And they create those futures. And then we choose one, and they start to make ideas on how to create, how to get to those futures. It's very inspiring. Kids are very inventive in that, and it should stay that way, I think.
There's another question from the front row.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I think it's that taps into some deep evolutionary processes. And I'm not going to disagree with Nelson Mandela for sure, but daydreaming is something that we're taught is actually a bad thing to do. You should be paying attention, not daydreaming, those types of stereotypes. And I think the possibility to daydream is actually inherent in all of us. And if we condition it out of ourselves through educational processes. So this is not a question, it's an observation. Hope you respond to it.
Yeah.
That I think we do, there's a lot to go.
Yeah, I agree, and in this sentence, I think you need to daydream. But if you daydream and you try to figure out where you want to go, because daydreaming helps you to find out your options and ideas. And doing this is one step, and then taking the next step, if you daydream and you have ideas and you want to go places, you can actually do something with it. Saying that it is good to daydream, but you can take it a step further if you want. Because there's a lot, when we talk about the future, I think this is important, but there are a lot of things you need to also find out who you are to be able to do this. And you need to know what ethics and values, etc., are important to think about the future and to create it in a good future. So there's more with this, but I think this can help in one way to get there as well.
Thank you so much again, and good luck on that rocky road.
Thank you.
We are all well aware that this is a late afternoon session, so let's give Anna also a fresh listener's experience. So I invite everyone just for a few seconds stand up and do some shoulder rolls.
Today I'm going to give a presentation of my study, but in the end then I'm hoping to have a bit of artistic dialogue with you and a discussion in a bit non-verbal way, if that's possible. Okay, so I'm a postgraduate student from Finland, from the University of Helsinki, and I'm a drama educator and environmental educator, and I have also worked as a teacher for 10 years. And in my study, I'm combining then drama and environmental education. And then I'm also doing research of a teacher, of myself, of my transition, of my process of transition, how I have changed, and how I have tried to learn to make it possible for the students to have their own transition process or transformation process, I would choose. Okay, then I have also studied or done research on climate change education, and yeah, I'll start with that. So, as you all know, climate change education challenges learning in schools and learning of adults and learning of children. And for me, the main point is about the need for change as not only how we behave, but also of the new epistemology we need. That we need creative thinking and the traditional way of knowing, mechanistic and analytic and controlling the worldview with especially this natural sciences way of that, okay, this will be the future and this is how the things work out. No, that's not more anymore possible. We need, for the transition of oneself and of the communities and of the world, we need new ways of thinking and also doing research. And the other challenge is about the emotions, as also the psychiatrists have noted noted this fact that climate change anxiousness is a big deal. It's a big issue to deal, and how should we communicate and work with this theme so that no need for denial or other passive ways to confront this reality we have with lots of crises. Yes. And that's why these concepts of agency and empowerment are very important. And at schools too, we need to deal with, or we need to make it possible for the teachers and for the students to have different kind of agencies, and to have it more active, and not everybody. It's then also an issue of power, that not everybody can have power at the same time. When if teachers have the power and control, then the students can't. It's not possible for them to learn to take responsibility or learn to be active. So we need really social and holistic learning processes. Well, what's the potential of drama then? Yeah, it's a good question. In drama, everything is uncertain. Well, this contrast constructed by of narratives, of conflicts, of tensions. In drama, it's rather easy. Not easy in a traditional way. Teaching drama is not very, it's not simple thing. But however, it's possible to use these also negative emotions, to use resistance, to use tensions and conflicts as energy, as parts of the creating the drama, and include these things what we have in our minds when we think about future or when we think about climate change. Well, my method has been or origins from devised theater, and it's a method of drama education. And this method has a background in unsatisfaction of traditional roles, and there was need for change in theater. And now I'm trying to use this need for change in education and apply this method of devised theater, even if it's not really a method, it's some kind of philosophy, or trying to see things differently. And it's student-centered, group-centered, and theme-based method for creating a performance. And it aims at artistic democracy, creativity, and dialogical teaching. And in my research project, I have collected data of 2 long projects, and then I have also some small projects. But these are the projects I did with, the first one was in Finland, and the other one was with international class in Brussels area, which it was the Nordic school where we had this kind of projects. So I know that this is not very simple, but it's worth of doing, however. In the process of creating a performance, this is my model of this process. And in this picture, you should see that, or it should be possible, or I aim at showing how these goals of sustainable development, education, and environmental education are included in the process of making the performance. So it starts from the brainstorming, what do we think? And what do we think is important, and what would we like to tell to the audience? And then we start to, and this brainstorming part is also very good for integrating, for example, lessons of science or lectures of different topics to this drama. So we can start from wherever. But if we have some common information or like lecture, then we can use it. And then in this creating the plot for the performance or some kind of, it doesn't need to be a traditional one, then we can work with these problems, tensions and solutions. And then when we are working together and making the scenes and rehearsing, then we are really learning to work together. And in this process, the ideas of the participants are transformed to the performance. So there is this aesthetic transformation happening. And then the performance, whatever it's like and whoever is the audience, it's a possibility to participate in the change, influencing the attitudes of the audience. And that's also what motivates to work, as the creative collaboration is never very simple or easy. Then it's very good to have a common goal when you need to negotiate and so on, that we have something to do together, then we need to end somewhere. And this reflection part, this fifth part, it's part of everything, or it's very important to leave time and give space for reflection, and it deepens the experiences of participation and deepens the learning also. So the learning can happen or take place both in social learning, and then also of the topic or of the environmental issue, what might be the question or the theme of the project. So what is the potential of drama? I think it's really in the experience of participation, having the possibility to actively participate with our mind, not only with our mind and brains, but also with our body. And just when you start to move and do something, then you get active and you don't get so stressed if you only think of the horrible threats, and if you are passively listening, it's much more stressful than when you are moving and doing something. And this active participation makes it possible for these different kind of processes of transformation, of this aesthetic transformation, and also this cultural transformation, and then this social transformation. But there are some challenges of this kind of teaching and this devised theatre too. And what are those? Maybe you can guess already what they might be. But there are these, it is this uncertainty. We need to deal with that when we don't have clear structure that, okay, we will do this and this and this and this, and I'll do this and that. But we need to listen to each other. But it's also a great possibility for a dialogue to learn to listen and to be present for the people. And that's why I personally have found it very, very, very good way and very giving way to do and to deal and to teach with adults or with younger children or with young people. But it needs, we need to cooperate and collaborate, and that's not very easy. You shouldn't think that, okay, then we just do like this. But if you are going to listen and if you are really going to cooperate, then you need to deal with all the different ideas and things which will happen, and it might cause conflicts and student resistance. But luckily, in drama you can use this. And if you, and then it's also, I think learning shouldn't be too easy. Then you don't maybe really learn. If you have conflicts, then you might learn a lot, much more than if it's just a flow to collaborate. Because then you need to really deal with the issues. And I believe that it's very important to work it out together, not so that the teacher says, so that okay, we do this and this and this and please shut up, we go on and continue. No, that's, then we lose many options and possibilities for learning if we just continue without dealing with the problems which might arise and with different kind of ideas and opinions. So, but it's not so easy to promote this active agency. So there are often questions of power, but by dealing with these, then it's possible to learn to take responsibility and as a group to come to the solutions together. It's a strong experience and it's really worth of doing it. You just need to create the space and time for doing this. Yeah, but if you do it at school, as I did, especially the second project I had, it was full of challenges and problems, and we had crises there at least twice. But then we dealt with that, and then in the end, we all were very happy and relieved, and it was a group of international students, and when they found their common language, and then when they came up with a performance, and everything went well in the end, even if they were very worried how it will look like, and they were of these 14 years old who are very afraid of what do the others think of me performing, but it was really worth doing it. So at schools, especially, you need to deal with the context of learning, and that makes it challenging. I don't continue with this. But the main question is, are the conflicts and difficulties seen as obstacles or opportunities for not only social learning but cultural and this? I think we should think positive of also this ecological crisis. It's a great option to learn for all the human beings. Well, and then in the end, a thought. But well, now I think we are the world, and it's time to act. We need to deal with uncertainty, and myself as well. This is a bit improvising, but I think we've been speaking a lot about the transition and how it is a change. So I would make a line here, and you are the first ones to make the transition. Just come here to the space in front. Wait, just a moment. Come, take your time to think. What do you think? How this change is possible? And come here wherever you like. You can be just standing here or wherever in your own thoughts. This is what you think. How this change is going to happen, or this, or whatever. So let's make a living statue. First you come alone, and when you think that, okay, everybody who was voluntary of this group, because it's voluntary, if you don't want to come, definitely you don't need to come. But if you feel of experiencing the change by this very short performance, then just join us. So come here alone and without words. Don't say anything during this performance. Come here wherever you feel like, and when everybody is in the have taken their statue, then when no one is coming anymore, then one can start the movie, and you can also make sounds if you like, and then you notice the others. And then we have an open end. Let's have a look what happens between people who come here. How we end this short experience. Are you ready? Is it okay? Okay. Well.
Enjoyment that one can have from the spectators here as well.
Is it? Yeah, we can do it later on in the morning. You can come to me and then we organize something.
We do have that later, 10 minutes of discussion time. Let's see how we
okay, then you can take. Yeah.
Let's have a half a minute or a minute reflection time with your neighbor to digest a bit what Anna was offering, and then Anna will put the rules up. So we will start in a minute. You can hum a bit with your neighbor, sharing experiences or change the rooms. So in a minute, Anna. May I have your attention please once again? Let's say the minute is up and honest time has come. So here you are.
So, hello, good afternoon. I am Kivinukk and I'm working for Environmental Education Association. And I would like to introduce to you some examples how we try to integrate environmental issues into different school subjects, especially on language as a second language or local language as a foreign language for some people. So, and as you know, local language, command of local language, and as one of the ESD principles is integration of environmental issues with our school subjects. And command of local language is quite important precondition to understand local life, local nature, and also local environmental programs. And so I can say that command of local language is a key for higher environmental awareness as well. And school has an important role in teaching languages to the young people and also providing environmental information. And so our problem here in Estonia is that there are lots of people who cannot understand Estonian language at all. So our idea was, why are you laughing? And so our idea was to work out the environmental texts and to build up the language exercises on the base of the text. So put together environmental information and language studies. And of course, this situation is quite special here in Estonia. But I believe that in many countries where immigration is issue, and also in globalization in the world, the same questions come up with Spanish language and with different other languages. And so this is our problem, and since our period we have two school networks. Schools what are working in Estonian language, and schools which are working in Russian language. And according to the law, since 2007, the Russian working languages must go on to Estonian, but there are problems. There is lack of study materials, there is lack of teachers, so it's not easy at all. And as you may know, the most effective way to start with foreign language is to start in very early childhood. So we worked out something for the kindergarten teachers. A group of kindergarten teachers came together, and we started to write environmental stories on water, waste, nature protection, and energy. So altogether we got 40 stories about the environment, mainly about children, how they act in the nature and so on. And then we sent these stories to our designer, whose name is Erik Gerent. And actually he modified the stories a little bit. And finally he made this kind of 4 posters, what you can see there on the wall. And he tested the posters on his 4-year-old son. He said it was okay and clear for children. So on the base of the posters, Estonian language teacher made environmental games. And also the games are combined with Estonian language. So the children in kindergarten, this type of posters, they call situation pictures. This is direct translation. So, and children can look at the posters, have their own stories, and discuss what they see there. And also they can game different games. You can see there is a booklet which is made for teacher. There is 16 different games, and at the same time they can learn Estonian language. So this type of posters we sent to the kindergartens who work in Russian children or Russian-speaking children go. And another project or another work was, this is the same, yeah? So for posters and booklet for teacher, you can see it on the wall. And another activity was focused on upper secondary school level students. And again, a group of teachers came together, biology teacher, chemistry, and Estonian language. And we made a handbook for the teachers who work with students, Russian-speaking students. And all this handbook is built up as lesson plan, set of lesson plan. The book is here and write it down. And in this calendar here, the integration and migration. That means that it was an issue of public procurement, and we couldn't change that much. We made some of our own suggestions, but yeah, the idea came from Lisa. And the handbook is based on a certain textbook, what is in use in our schools, and of course it all follows the Estonian school curriculum. And so biology and environmental issues are integrated with chemistry and Estonian mainly. And the handbook includes lesson plans on 33 different topics. Every curriculum, every lesson plan has short text about the issue. Then some exercises for language studies and some exercises for biology, chemistry, or environment. And there is a special method what is used when teaching language. And it's called content and language integrated learning method. It's quite well known all over the world. And I think that we got this introduction from Canada. And every chapter ends with 5 questions to review the lessons. And so this handbook has the text for students and for teachers. They are separated with different signs, and all the methodological tips for teachers, they are written in red. We don't think that teachers are so stupid and don't know the material themselves, but especially when the teachers are Russian speaking or doesn't know Estonia quite well. So we want it to be as clear as possible. And there is CD-ROM which is enclosed to the book. And again, there is the PDF version of the handbook. Then PowerPoint presentations. Here we cooperated with the biology teachers of Estonia, so teacher can take this download PowerPoint presentation and use in their lessons, and worksheets for students. So there are PDF from this handbook, and teacher can show it to the screen, or if she wants, she can print it out and distribute to the students. And so, what we learned during this work, so it's cooperation, and it was the most useful was cooperation between different subjects, and on the border of the different subjects. Maybe between biology and IT, biology and chemistry, really very interesting things happen, because chemistry teacher see our subject absolutely different and maybe a little bit different, and so the methods what we worked out or what we suggested, they were really interesting for us. And we cooperated together with the language teacher. We learned a lot about their methods, and after the end of the project, the Estonian teacher said that she learned a lot about biology. And again, when we wrote the text, this Estonian teacher said that it's not understandable. It's not clear, and we as a biologists or experts, we see everything in our eyes. But it was very refreshing to listen to other people and take it. So it was all, and so it was my message that cooperation between different subjects, different teachers. It was the most useful during the projects. Thank you.
So a lot of work has been done, there has been a lot of cooperation, lessons have been learned, the publication has already reached the first row and the specialists. What questions have arisen? Yeah, there's a question over there.
Are you intending to work out some materials for English teachers in Estonian schools? Because we expect that the environmental themes go into other lessons also, not only in lessons of science.
See küsimus oli, kas on mõeldud?
Kas on mõeldud ka koostada õppematerjale niimoodi, et inglise keele tundides näiteks käsitletakse rohkem keskkonnaga seotud teemasid, et see ei jääks üksnes loodusainete õpetajate õlgadele integratsioon, vaid jõuaks ka teiste ainetele?
So I think that I know that there are some schools which work on the special method on that. And I think that the principle of this work is the same. It doesn't matter is it Russian language or English or Spanish. The method is the same. And the problem is only on resource, not only money but also time and people who could do that. But I know that there are people who are working with these issues. Maybe it didn't reach to everyone. And also, which is very useful is each kind of environmental projects. But again, it's not everyone work on that. And it's also one way to environment project for students. This is a way how to work and how to learn a lot.
Another question, perhaps? Thank you so much again. Now that we had some time to sit and digest and discuss about the previous session, maybe we have a few questions to Anna?
Yes.
Anna from Finland. So. There's a question.
Yes.
I was very interested in this using drama as part of the education, and I was wondering, because as a teenager, I didn't like to be in front of people or do creative things, because I wasn't really confident in this. And I was wondering how you would deal with such shy students or passive, cool students that would just want to be at the back or things like that.
Well, I always want to give an option to stay in the back if they want, but I also encourage that in the. It depends on the project how long it is, but you can also be responsible of the lights and sounds if you like, and then we often use some pictures too, or so there are. It's not obligatory to stand and speak and so on. So. But quite often, just last week, I had a group, and then there was a girl who said that, well, I don't like performing, and I'm rather shy and so on. But then in the end, she wanted to have the biggest role, and so you never know what happens then in the end. But it's very important to tell them that okay, this is voluntary, and you need to listen to yourself what's good for you.
There's another question.
May I ask that how was it to participate in the very short performance? Or
what kind of feedback do you expect? Would you like us to give you a show of hands or some
perhaps
words? Or
if it was it a positive experience or not so positive, or in the middle?
So
please
everyone
show
who
me.
participated, can you show your...
And you can also show this if you just watched, because it's also interesting.
So I see there are thumbs up. How
Yeah.
does it correspond to your previous experience? I recall you told that there was some crisis you were open about, that you could integrate that.
Yeah, that was a very challenging group too, that okay, all the teachers wanted that. Yeah, well, it's very nice, Anna, if you make a performance with them, because they really need it. So it was a challenging group. But when sometimes if everybody is very eager and if they have chosen this drama workshop, for example, then they all are positive about that. Well, I think it's very good to learn also this. It's very good option to learn. And if there are difficulties, then you need, of course, more time for reflection. And then of this challenging process, many students told me that, okay, they really learned that, okay, we can cope with these problems, and they learned to, and then they became one group in the end. So it was a positive experience, even if it was frustrating. And I think often if you need to really collaborate, then it might not be so easy always to integrate all the ideas and things in the common product.
So thanks a million for having us the opportunity to peek into the reflective, exciting world of drama in this field. So thank you again.
Thank you.
The floor is Karolin.
Thank you for you.
Hello, my name is Karolin, and actually I would like to start with the idea that there are not only 2 educational systems in Estonia, but there are 3. In recent years there are more and more international schools, and I'm happy to teach in one of the international schools. But this is not the reason I came here today. Today I would like to share about my experience with teaching and training teachers in Ghana. And let's see, maybe we'll also finish with a small game, because there are not so many people today. There's a small stage and room, so if we have time and if you are willing, then we'll finish with one game. But I just actually came back from Ghana, and I spent the 3 months with the help of a lovely little NGO called Mondo. Some of you maybe were in the previous sessions where people from Mondo gave experiences about what Mondo really is. If you don't know yet and you're a teacher, you should definitely check out their website. And also from the money of not educational ministry, but the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I spent in the most northwest part in Ghana. I spent months in the Upper East, which is quite challenging. When we think about the schools there, then the situation is completely different. And the situation is also different in regards to the statistics of how many students in general go to school. As you can see, not all the students who are at the school age even attend the school. And the general instruction in Estonia, we talk about a lot of e-technologies. Nowadays we use tablets, different apps in schools. We cannot even speak about electricity in most of the schools in Ghana. So definitely the instruction and methodology how to reach your students is more challenging, and it's different. Many ways maybe it's better, because sometimes even my students say to me that, teacher, could you please not use a computer or a Prezi? Let's just talk face by face. Sometimes our students miss this kind of a human connection, because teacher sometimes hides in the back of the computer and doesn't come up to walk between the classrooms. But in Ghana, it never happens. Teacher does not have a comfortable chair to sit on. Not all the students have comfortable chairs to sit on. Sometimes the school is not even in an area with an actual school look, but it's an outside school. And when it comes to sustainability, then the issues are, of course, really challenging. Starting with issues about how to get appropriate food, issues in medicine, and so on. So definitely the topic of sustainability needs to be addressed there. And I believe that creativity and sustainability are really closely linked, because if a person can think about of various ways how to cope with an issue or a new problem, then most likely this new student will create the pathway towards the sustainable future, because he or she can come up with the new and challenging ways how to cope with different issues that we as educators, we cannot have a clear idea what will happen in 30 years with our planet. Maybe we as human species don't exist at all. Maybe we are living in Mars. Who knows? So we must train also students to think of out of the box, think of creatively. And this is what I was mostly engaged in Ghana, and I was doing a bit of research also. I am at home, I'm a science teacher. My main focus area is biology. I love biology. And so I went to different schools, first of all, just to gather information. What is the instruction? How does the national curricula look like? What are the main challenges? And on the basis of that, I created sessions for science teachers and also for the headmasters, because headmasters are the ones that can motivate, that can help, that can trigger the change in the schools to work with those issues. And in Ghana, I was working in junior high schools, which means in Estonia it would be grades 7 to 9, and their syllabus in sciences is integrated, which means that chemistry, biology, physics is taught in one lesson, and the syllabus is also spiral, which means that every year they come back to the similar topics. They have some topics that run through, for example, matter. One year they start with talking about the basic things of matter, and maybe the last year they will finish up with some cycles of matter, or I don't know, carbon cycle and so on. So it's a spiral approach, and actually the curriculum itself is quite good. Obviously, as a former colonial country, they still follow lots of ideas from the Brits. It's just that the problem that how those ideas are approached in an environment where not all the students have books, not all the teachers are well trained, not all the teachers even want to teach, because in Estonia, well, Estonian education system stands by the idea that we have rich husbands who support our poor teachers. If it wouldn't be that case, our education systems would not be there. But in Ghana, when you would ask from every child, they would say that I want to become either a doctor or a teacher, because teachers earn a lot. So this means that in a way it's good, everyone wants to become a teacher, there is a competition in that field, but in a way it's bad because you want to become a teacher because you get lots of money. In Ghana terms, it's around 900 cedis, in Europe it's corresponding 300 euros, but with this money you can easily, nicely live there. So maybe that is one of the challenges too. When I met with the teachers and had my trainings, then I was doing a small survey. Mostly for me, I asked questions about how do they prepare for their lessons, how do they use the concept of creativity and sustainability. So I would like to introduce some of the results. I was intrigued by the idea that when I observed the lessons were mostly that the teacher was just chatting with the students more freely, maybe quoting some things from the book, but as there were no computers in the schools, where there were a few schools who were supported by Brits or got support from states, they had some computer labs, but mostly the teacher had no computer. So I, as a science teacher, was wondering how the hell I'm preparing for the lesson if I just have to prepare it with my own knowledge. Nowadays, science is so dynamic, it's changing. I need to have Google to check for my data, for my facts, but as you can see, not so many teachers use Google. One, of course, is because they don't have the access, but a little bit is connected also with the idea that do they want to spend their free time. Estonian teachers are like crazy. They sometimes go to bed at 10 o'clock at night to prepare for tomorrow's lessons. Ghana teachers, you are more relaxed. Why should I prepare for a lesson if I could go to grab a beer with my friend? And true, in a way, makes sense. You are more sustainable because you are not in a stress. You don't finish your year like Estonian teacher, all crazy about it. Now, how do they define creativity? Well, I would say that most of them had quite a good idea what is creativity. And to be honest, students were super creative. They were building toys from absolutely nothing. I was always checking what should I put in my garbage. I almost applied zero waste policy there, but I still got some garbage. And I always had to check because I knew that the students would come by my house, check what's there, build their toys. And they were able to do some amazing toys out of that. So they were creative, teachers were creative, but not all of them were, and not all of them were aware of what is creativity. Let's say that around 75% of teachers, when you ask them in a written form to define creativity, were able to define it. And here are some quite good definitions you can see. So they were really aware of that, and especially in science, they knew that creativity is the most crucial thing when it comes to creating new scientific knowledge. Then about methods, do they use, and what kind of creative methods do they use in the classroom? Of course, when we speak about diverse methods, then one idea is to teach those methods and to use those methods when you have the small groups, but when you have groups of 40 students who don't have normal desks, or maybe some of them are missing chairs, when you don't have enough materials, then it's of course more challenging, but it is possible. And they were quite optimistic by stating that they use a lot of different methods. If you think about that, they only have 24 lessons per month, and they use during those lessons a lot of art, even some games. I would say that if I would do the same survey in Estonia, then I would get maybe even lower results, probably. And to be honest, when I went to see the lessons, I never saw any games, or I never saw how much they use arts. When I used arts, it took a huge amount of time to prepare for a poster. So I suspect that maybe those should be critically revised, those numbers. But then to ask, so why they are not using so much creative methods? The biggest issue in here being that they lack of knowledge. Their university education was not preparing teachers to use creative methods. I think the same issue is in Estonia too. And of course, sometimes it can be time-consuming when you have your state curriculum that says you must feed the students with that knowledge. Then, of course, if I would rather just quote things they will write than play a game. Because with a game, even though they could get the same amount of knowledge, it still consumes way more time. But what about sustainability? And how it is applied there? Well, in integrated science, they don't have the word sustainability linked with their curricula. They have it in social science studies or in geography. So those teachers told me that they use sustainability or the concept. But when you would discuss about the students, like what would be the sustainable use of resources, they would say, I don't know. And then they would go home and trash their water buckets to the ground, or ditch water from an area where you should not ditch it, or collect trees to burn wood for eating something. But there is a big issue of the certification in this area, but it's just that somehow it's not embedded in their national curricula. And as you can see, quite a huge amount of science teachers, they don't use this concept at all. I only have a few of them, and when you look at the definition, well, it's quite good. And then an interesting question to me, because I come from a country which highly values nature, and my students, well, most of my students, they are really looking at what they eat, how it affects the nature, what kind of products to consume, and so on. But in Ghana, I never came across with this kind of mentality that you should protect the nature and think about for the future use. If I'm cutting this forest from here, what will happen in 20 years' time? Will the Sahara come to my home? I don't know, but I mean, I don't think about it. In our culture, students think about it a lot, but they're not. That's why probably those kind of results, because even teachers were confused about those statements, like what do they even mean in terms of my subject matter. But in a way, after the workshops, they were all positively loaded with the idea that they will use the methods, and would be interesting to go there to see if things have changed due to that. But unfortunately, maybe it's possible. Maybe I'm going to go back, or maybe some of you who were interested and intrigued by the idea of volunteering and contributing your pedagogical knowledge, not only in the Western society, where we have a lot of that, and maybe sometimes even students or your headmasters don't acknowledge that or cherish you, or to go in a country where actually it is really needed. But anyway, what I taught to them was different game-based learning, different activities. We focused a lot about inquiry. Inquiry in Ghana is embedded in the national curricula. Every teacher should do at least 2 hours of inquiry per week. Obviously, none of them do that, because for inquiry you need a lot of skills and you need also material. The inquiry labs I taught to them were with common vegetables, with some simple tools they have anyway in their everyday life. So hopefully they will start using them in the future with the students. And after the workshop, what was the outcome? I was really happy to see that most of the teachers stated that they will use the methods, and when I went to their lessons, I saw that actually some of them were using those methods. And also some link with the idea of creativity and sustainability is that most of the teachers believed that when they use creative methods, then the students are better problem solvers. And this is the concept that will lead us to a sustainable future. I would agree. So now I can say that we have enough time to play one game. This is my all-time favorite game about ecology. This game is a really creative game because you as a teacher, you can modify this whatever way you want. I usually use it to teach the concept about evolution, but you can introduce the concept about sustainability, pollution, and all of that. So maybe we could create 2 lines. One line over here and one line over here. It needs a bit of running because in the natural world you have to fight for your resources. So the ones who have high heels, maybe you want to take them off or just to sit and enjoy the game.
How many people do you need minimum?
Let's say 12 people.
That would be the minimum to work.
Yes.
Yeah. So the maximum, how many?
All of us can play this. So just one line over here and one line over here, and we are opposing each other. And we should be more or less equal. I know, actually, let's create this line a bit longer. Otherwise, it will finish quite fast. Do you know this game? I learned this game in a training course in States. But I've used it in Estonia, usually when I start to do field work with students, and they love it. And in Ghana, at the beginning, some classes had difficulties to understand the concept, but at the end, I think it was a nice game. I will just do some reading. Maybe 2 of you could go over there. 2 over there. Perfect. So now we have a line of resources. Let's call this game Oh Dear. Because we are in Estonia, we have a forest. So this forest is full of resources. What kind of resources we can have? Mushrooms. So let's say food. If you want to be a resource of food, just remember those signs. Then you just put your hands to your belly. What other resources animals need? Water. Water. So water is this sign. Do we need something else? So maybe a shelter, a general habitat. So shelter is this sign. This group is a group of deers. And let's say that those deers want some kind of a resource. So both groups at the beginning of the game turn around. You don't see each other. And both of the groups have to decide. This group of resources will decide what kind of resource you are at the moment. And this group decides, deers decide what kind of resource do I need at this very moment. When I clap, then you turn around. Resources don't run, but the animals run for the resource. So if you see the right resource for you, then you go for that resource. So, 1, 2, 3, choose, and run for your resource. So now you're grabbing your resource, and it was a great year for this population of deers. This means that the population doubled. Amazing! Plenty of resources.
Where's your resource?
Oh, yeah.
But now, the idea is that I think that the deers, you have to choose the resource before. So it means that now, the next line, what will happen is that if there are so many resources, you start, so many deers, you start fighting for the resources. Okay. Obviously, there are not enough. And the ones who make the wrong decision, if you, for example, wanted water, but there's no water, then you will die. Let's see. Turn around. You can change if you want. You don't have to be the same resource. If you are the same, then it could be a memory game included. But anyway, 1, 2, 3, choose your resource and go! So now it seems that the population or a part of the population just died because there were not enough resources. What will happen to the ones who died? They will become part of the nature. They will decompose. So they can join in this line again. Well, let's keep it as a circle. I think we're not going to run anymore. You have had enough running. But how you can introduce the pollution to that is that when there's a next round with the students, you could, for example, say that it was flooding this year. I don't know, a hydropower station was built, so all the area was flooded. So now everyone must be water resource, for example. And the ones who are not choosing water will die. Or then you can introduce pollution in a way that there is a disease. And you say, you are a diseased resource or diseased water, and everyone who took this diseased water will die. So you can introduce many concepts just by starting with the clear Darwinian evolutionary principles of struggle for survival and struggle for resources, and ending with sustainability and so on. You can end the game with saying that everything is smashed because a new city was built.
That's like
okay. That's fine.
One can remove deer.
Oh, true. Yeah. When the new species evolved from that. So plenty of opportunities. But now, as I can see that there is some time left, I just thought that maybe I would show you a small video about one school. It's just for you to get to know what do the schools look like, and that there is a possibility to give a quality education also in the schools that are not so fancy, don't have computers and so on. It's just that then you have to have really creative teachers who manage to do that. But now I am in a problem because this computer shows one picture and this shows another, so how can I put this video to start? But this is not my presentation.
Oh, okay.
I have no idea. Maybe it's in
So let's use this moment for buzzing with the neighbors a bit. There will be a few minutes for questions and answers. What did you experience? Talk to your neighbor. What kind of ideas came to your mind?
Did you like the game?
Yeah, that's how to start. Yeah. Well, it's perhaps it's about how I plan. But, well, and it depends on the group size. Sometimes it's for example, they can have a step over, and for every step we
time for the video now.
Groups, they might
Just a short video for you to see what are the school grounds looking like there, what kind of opportunity students have there. This is one school that has actually quite good rooms. They actually have. And it's quite challenging to teach because you can hear there's a lot of wind in the background. The temperature can go up to 40 degrees. And when there's no fan in the classroom, then you have to be a super master teacher to get this, like the student feedback and so on. So now I think, even though I managed to make it super fast, you probably have some questions, so I can address all the questions now. And really, for all the Estonians who are here, definitely use the opportunities with Mondo. They have, if you don't want to go to yourself to some African countries, or now they have some Asian countries too, you can partner up your school with a school in Ghana or in Kenya or in Yemen, and your students can benefit a lot from this kind of a cultural dialogue. Wonderful question. When I asked questions, no one asked anything in Ghana. So then the teacher started to say that you cannot leave the room if you haven't asked a question. I'm not going to say that. You don't have to ask questions, but if you have, then now it could be a perfect time to do that.
How did you figure out ways to deal with the situation that you're in? How did you find your creativity to develop?
Well, I am from a really creative, I'm from a background where my mother was a dancer, father was a musician. So I'm from a creative background. My kindergarten used to be one of the most creative kindergartens. And I think in this way I understood the role of creativity, and you must be raised in an environment that is creative, and then you will become creative. I finished an art school. I've done a lot of dancing, drumming, and all of this somehow helps me to diverse my methodology, how to teach and so on.
And how can you help others to get that creativity?
I would say that join drum circle. But there are so many cool workshops that are around. Mondo offers quite a lot of workshops in Estonia for educational scientists. Its workshop schedule is full, so just go to different workshops. At Tallinn University there is actually like a small circle of creative pedagogies, and I know that they do some sessions and meetings. In Estonia there is a group called Game Club, which introduces how to spice up your lessons with games. So outdoor education provides a lot of creative ways to science teachers especially. Yeah.
Yeah, so for all Estonian teachers, it's possible to go for 3 months volunteer.
Depends on your boss, actually. I am super thankful to my school. I'm teaching in a small private school that has an IB program, Al Dente school, and they were okay with that. But sometimes it can be quite challenging if you say that, by the way, I want to leave for 3 months. But other than that, yes, the government funded. And I think, I'm not aware of how many years they will continue the funding, so the ones who want to go, act fast. But there are so many international opportunities to do this overseas training or so on, and I think for a teacher it's a great opportunity.
Two more questions I see from there. Did you have a question?
No, sorry.
Okay.
There's so many things that were going on there really. There was large groups. There was a lot of unfenced activity. There was probably a language issue. There would be a cultural difference going on there. There looks as though there was different age ranges there perhaps. How did you know, and I'm not looking for a quantitative answer to this, how did you know on a day-to-day basis you were doing a good job? What sort of things did you think about, wow, that was great, or that didn't work?
Well, by the cultural differences, people usually are more open than general Estonians. Luckily, I'm not going to say luckily, I don't teach anymore in Estonian school, but I have international students, so they provide me in Estonia even feedback, but I remember that when I was teaching sometimes in Estonian school, then not all the time you got so much feedback like, oh, that lesson was amazing or something like that. But in Ghana, you always got this feedback. After the lesson, when they enjoyed, they did this special clap that was great. So then you know that they enjoyed. Simple as that.
Can we give you the same clap?
Okay, thank you.